Restoration education. We're on the road. A year ago, in this same forum, we had a call to action. This year, there's no need for a call to action because the action has started. On behalf of the International Union of Forestry Research Organizations, CIFOR-ICRAF and Global Landscapes Forum, and Wageningen University in the Netherlands, I'm very happy to give the floor to Pieter Minnaar, Dr. Pieter Minnaar, Director for CIFOR-ICRAF in Africa.
Dear colleagues, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm really pleased to be here on behalf of ICRAF and the entire CIFOR-ICRAF family to welcome you all to this Restoration Education Summit. I think this is extremely important for us, both professionals in the area, but also the people expecting delivery on restoration on the ground. I remember reading an article around May 5th, just before the UNCCD in Abidjan. And it said a number of things. One of the key things that struck me there was they looked at age 2020 in Latin America and they said they had reached 22.6 million hectares. That is about close to half of what they need to meet. In Africa, the Great Green Wall had reached 20 million hectares, just 1/5 of what they need to reach by 2030. And when it got to AFR 100, the data said unclear how many hectares have been restored. And still we have to reach another 100 million hectares. So, and I think that the big part of the problem is not having enough professionals on the ground to deliver on this, but also the fact that the delivery is a little complicated for delivering ecosystem services. You do need a different kind of professional, transdisciplinary professionals. You do need people that are thinking transformatively, and you have to move restoration from simply growing trees to a transformative dimension. And I think we do need specific kind of education to do this. And I think that looking at formal, informal education is extremely important in this, because that's the only way we can get to the threshold of professionals that we need, but also the kind of action that we need on the ground. CIFOR-ICRAF is really keen and happy to be working with GLF, with IFRO, and with Wageningen University to deliver on this. And I think what you've been doing here in this summit has been extremely useful. What you would bring out in terms of a blueprint would be a good starting point for us. And I think that we are on track. We will be able then, I hope, to report in a couple of years' time that we are also moving towards the 100 million hectares and not having a ... We don't know what we currently have done. So I think this is critical for the continent. It is critical for moving forward and delivering the ecosystem services that landscape restoration is expected to deliver in a transformative and really transdisciplinary format. So I'm really grateful. ICRAF CIFOR are really happy to be hosting this and happy to walk the journey that has started on this. Thank you very much and have an enjoyable summit. I'll be sitting around as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. It is really nice to hear that CIFOR-ICRAF is stepping up, furthering, strengthening education and restoration through science in action. Yeah, I think, Peter, I totally agree with you. A lot of capacities are there everywhere. Everybody is thrilled by this whole restoration movement that is growing and growing. Yet we, as Universities United, we believe that we need to also step up and take our share. And taking our share, that means enhancing our restoration education efforts and creating the curricula that are transdisciplinary, that are interdisciplinary, and that helps the future restoration professionals to be truly broad-minded and having the abilities to guide all these large restoration projects into the right direction. This is something that we share with the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, and that decade and the drivers of that decade have been thinking a lot on how to channel capacity development and also education into the right direction. And I'm very happy to hand over to Robin Tesdon. Robin Tesdon is a senior researcher and also a consultant for Reforestation International, and she's been very active in the UN Task Force on Capacity Development. Robin, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be part of this summit. I'm going to share a presentation that describes what we've been doing with the UN task, the FAO-based task force on best practices. One component of the task force is focused on capacity needs assessment and developing a capacity, knowledge, and learning action plan for the UN decade. And that's what I'm going to be presenting today, because we actually have moved quite far in this work. There we go. So just a little background on what we've been doing. We've been gathering a lot of information. One of these is on what are the major gaps that people have expressed based on our global capacity needs assessment. And there will be a link to that report in the chat, so you can read the assessment on your own time. We also did a stock taking of what is out there in terms of existing knowledge products and capacity development initiatives of all sorts, as far as we could around the world. And both of those sources of information went into deciding what would be our flagship products for the Capacity, Knowledge, and Learning Action Plan. These would be products that we would develop throughout the decade. And all of this information was really focused on how do we enhance system-wide capacities for restoration. So across all individuals working in different capacities, enhancing their knowledge and skills, but also enhancing the work of the organizations in which these individuals are working. So it's also an attempt to raise capacity of organizations, and also to really improve the enabling environment that influences the effectiveness of the work of organizations and individuals, so that we can all be working in alignment and toward restoration at a large scale and toward raising the capacities. So here are the 6 flagship products that we are working on that will actually define our action plan. And one of these I'm going to be talking about in more detail, which is the Ecosystem Restoration Learning Hub. And this interfaces very, very closely with the work that will be done with the restoration education that's being discussed today. We also have other flagship products, one of which will focus on school children education and programs that may also be linked in some ways to the Ecosystem Restoration Learning Hub. The main 3 main aspects of this learning hub. First, we view this as a clearinghouse that's basically assembling and providing access to information, to disseminating information about existing education and capacity development initiatives. Second, we want to build on existing initiatives. We don't want to start things from scratch if they're already underway. So we want to really build on what's happening and build on partnerships that are developing. And we want to enable new initiatives and partnerships through this learning hub. The Learning Hub will really focus and will highlight programs that are providing a holistic approach to ecosystem restoration. We really want to encourage, as much as possible, broad approaches that are interdisciplinary and that also involve landscape approaches when those are possible. We're really viewing this under three main pillars. One is through field-based training and educational programs where you bring people out in the field where they can see how to influence restoration on the ground. So these will be designed for practitioners, for decision makers, and for extension trainers, training trainers types of programs. We also see a huge potential for job-based programs, on-the-job training, certificate programs, short courses and webinars designed to improve the capacity of people on the job. And finally, we see an important academic pillar, which integrates very closely with the initiative that we're talking about today. This includes bachelor's degree programs, master's degree programs, and also developing courses that can be incorporated into broader curriculum. So we view this hub as being utilized by three main groups. One group would be individuals of coming from all kinds of different backgrounds who seek formal and informal educational opportunities and capacity development programs, so they can look up what kinds of programs are available in the region or what programs they could connect to online. Second would be educators who are working in this arena, who work to assemble and deliver content in courses and capacity development programs. We want to enhance their work and allow them to share and learn from each other and develop partnerships. And third, organizations and government agencies who seek to develop partnerships to deliver better capacity development programs, either for their staff or to other groups. So we want to give them the capacity to enhance their work that way. And we see three main focal activities. One is this clearinghouse activity of collecting and organizing information and resources, but also information about educator networks that may be regional in scope or thematic in scope, partnerships that may be developing or that are already in place, and communities of practice. We really want to bring the education and capacity development communities together through this Learning Hub. And also we want to provide mechanisms for translating documents to multiple languages so that there's no barrier, there's no language barrier for this information. So people who are teaching a course in languages can get access to educational materials as well as course content and have that translated so that they can use it in different languages. We think this is an important barrier to overcome. And third, to provide access to a whole variety of educational resources for all of these programs, including videos and curricula and specific course content when we can do that. So we really do want to invite everyone to participate in this effort. This is really going to require a cooperative effort among many different groups. Of course, groups that are already very active in this space will be consulted, and we will try to develop a space to work together and take on different roles in this Restoration Learning Hub. So we would love for you to join us and identify what synergies you see between your work and what we are proposing, and to help us to refine the plan. There is going to be a link in your chat that to a form that you can fill out, so you can provide more information and we can be in touch with you. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and enjoy the forum.
Robin, we are delighted to hear the UN inviting initiatives to come forward. So here we are. You have got your partners. We are really striving for the same goal, and we have made big advances. So I do think actually, Robin, you have found your partners. I am super happy to introduce you to the 9 African universities and colleges that we have assembled here in this room. One of the leaders is Steve Makungwa from Malawi, from the University of Lilongwe, Natural Resources and Forestry. And I'm happy to give them the floor to show the world and the UN what we've been doing so far and the great plans that they have in mind. Steve, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kola. I have a team here, a panels, who will be actually sharing with you what we have been doing the last few days, and also since the last time we had again a call to action. So at my far left, we have our colleague, Dr. Dejoke Akinyere. Dr. Dejoke Akinyere is the associate professor from the University of Ibadan in Nigeria.
Hello, everyone.
We have also Dr. Mari Abana. Mari is a program manager of African Forest Forum and also associate professor at the Chang University in Cameroon. Sorry, Cameroon. And then at my right, we have a young restoration steward at the GORF and a founder of Light on Hill organization. She's Eva Kandi.
Hello.
And then to my far right, I have Kim Merton. He will be one of the facilitators as we are moving to this panel discussion. Kim.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, colleagues, friends, as it has already been indicated, we had a call to action last year where we were really looking at transformative restoration education for Africa. And since then, we have been meeting a team of core team from African universities from the West Africa, East Africa, Southern Africa. We have been meeting, reflecting, and how best can we really take this into the future. And here we are to share with you some of the key elements that we have already achieved so far and what we have already done. We have had several meetings, consultative meetings online, where we have been reflecting to see what is that we really want to achieve as restoration, transformative restoration education in Africa. And we have finally come up with the vision, where our vision is to create a future that every individual, from the farm all the way to the highest office in any country, are participating effectively into the restoration of the great landscapes in their own areas. And we think to achieve that, capacity building is key. It's also an element that is very crucial, which that's what we really want to make sure that we provide and also empower all these with the knowledge, with the skills, with the mindset that can actually be able to drive this initiative and be able to bring some transformation on the ground. As such, as we have been working on, we have come up with a blueprint about this particular program, which we think would be a starting point for us to address issues of capacity building within Africa. So I would like to ask my colleague, Adejoke Akinyere, who would give more details about this particular blueprint, what it is, and some of the information that we can share with you. Adejoke.
Yeah, thank you very much, Steve. Let me join Cora to tell Robin that really you have your team. You have your collaborators, because with all the things you have been saying, these are the things that we also have in mind. These are things that we have on ground. And just like Steve said, we have this blueprint that we developed from the various principles that we looked into to fill the gaps that we have when it comes to restoration education in Africa. And we are so excited to know that we have a collaborator in you. In the blueprint, we have these principles, and with these principles, we are sure that we're going to be able to fill in the gaps that we have that is lacking in restoration education in the continent of Africa. And part of what we are considering doing is to make sure that from this blueprint that we have been able to identify learning outcomes and objectives that are necessary to be able to establish restoration education in Africa. We have develop a curriculum that we are sure that by the time we're able to implement this curriculum, it will bring about transformative restoration education such that every part of the continent of Africa, we carry out a restoration of our landscape so that we don't even need to restore after some time, but to maintain what we have on ground. And part of the things we are considering doing after this, our program, the workshop we've been having since the beginning of the week, is to make sure that at least on the minimum, we begin to introduce at least part of this curriculum to our students in the university. Let's start with introducing it into what is already in existence, because we know that we have all this information, we have all this curriculum for restoration that has been developed all over the continent, but we are thinking of a way of bringing up a transformative way of teaching or bringing information to our learners such that we have this information and we can continue to run with it. Steve.
Thank you very much, Adejoke. I would have a follow-up question actually for you, Steve. How do we realize this vision? I love the vision, but how do we actually realize it?
Yeah, we think what is important is that we have the vision, and the vision will drive us into the action that we can take on the ground. And within our universities within Africa, we have the low-hanging fruits, which we can currently utilize. The programs are already undergoing as of in our universities, and some of the elements of the restoration education are already offered within our universities. We think at a certain point, we can actually take some of these courses and embed within the existing programs, and also maybe being able to hold seminars and also maybe short courses in which maybe we can start implementing these activities. Because we are aware that many of our universities, in order to get a new program into it, the process is a bit more, it takes a bit longer. It's only after a certain period of time that the curriculum has to be reviewed. But while we are moving towards that, we can still do something as of now and bring in these aspects so that we can facilitate, accelerate restoration on the ground. As it has already been said, different countries in Africa, they already committed themselves. By 2030, they need to restore certain areas of land. So the opportunities are there that we can actually advance this without looking for big resources like money and all that. But we can start from small and be able to grow together.
Thanks a lot for that, Steve. There is also, Marie-Louise, an opportunity to bring in other organizations as well. Mm-hmm. How does the Restoration Education Program aim to bring in other organizations? For example, the African Forest Forum.
Thank you, Kim, for giving me that opportunity. The African Forest Forum is a Pan-African organization of more than nearly 3,000 individual members, from which you have only 60% who are foresters. That means you also have many other people from different backgrounds, from different disciplines, who are really interested to use, to conserve, to manage, to use forest and tree resources, and for socio-economical well-being of African people, but also to improve the environment in which they are living. And knowledge generation and capacity building are two core activities of the African Forest Forum. Mm-hmm. So the inclusive, the participatory approach, and even this transformative approach we use to develop this blueprint is something really African Forest Forum can really value. And from this year, the African Forest Forum will be really happy to work with all these partners in moving a step forward and see how this material, this blueprint can be made available to this large group we have, and also to our partners, but also to move forward in putting a content by bringing this same partners and university partners to contribute in developing a real content that could be reproducible and adaptable for different audience, for different target, and for different contexts. So really, we are seeing here an opportunity to contribute also to the development of this knowledge and on sharing and building capacity at African level for this landscape restoration. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for that, Marie-Louise. I just want to pivot now to grassroots organizations and youth. How is this program going to influence your work?
Thank you, Kim, for the opportunity, and my fellow colleagues. for the wonderful inputs. I think this is a great awakening, and actually we see hope right now, seeing ourselves in this kind of panel. For the longest time, the indigenous, the grassroots, the indigenous knowledge actually has been left out. And seeing us here right now, represented and telling the problem as it is at the ground level, I think now we're headed in the right direction. As Cora said, we're already taking action. Yes, we are taking action. And I think this means that we will have sustainable solutions to the problems that there are. And also, everyone will be brought on board and feel included. And therefore, this means sometimes you feel stuck at the ground due to lack of scientific knowledge, due to lack of the right academic guidance and technical. But now, if we combine hands and have the right kind of solutions, and we are able to know if we're experiencing these shocks at the grassroots, maybe due to climate change and all that, we know that we have a team that we can work with. We know that this is how we go about these kinds of shocks and these kinds of changes. So I'm really seeing hope, and I'm seeing hope in sustainable landscape restoration. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for that, If. I just wanted to pick out one thing you mentioned, going from knowledge to action. And Adejoke, in the workshop, I learned that in the past, we've tried to be very transformative with education, but often there are some big challenges associated with that. How are we going to realize transformative education, and how are we going to go from knowledge to action?
Yes. For us in this forum, we have decided that we're not going to carry out our restoration education in the usual way. It's no longer business as usual. We're starting a new generation of we are building new generation of professionals in landscape restoration by ensuring that the curriculum that is developed is learner-centered. The learners will be at the center of the curriculum such that they're able to adopt this as their own program, such that whatever they learn is a lifelong learning. We're going to train our facilitators to use pedagogical skills in teaching, in the approach of bringing up all this information that we have. We're going to make sure that whatever is learned is transdisciplinary, as has been said. We're going to make sure that different practitioners are brought on board such that there is this inclusiveness that we're going to make sure that is added to whatever we're teaching our learners. So, yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Of the ways we believe that we could be able to do it.
Thanks a lot for that. And Adejoke touched upon some of the principles for transformative education that at one point we hope to publish with all of you out there. But Steve, there was another challenge, I think, that we discussed quite often about the need for restoration education, or the content and the knowledge to be useful, to be applicable, and particularly address real-time issues, especially in an ever-changing climate. How will this program achieve that?
Yes, in the design of the program, we took those aspects into consideration, and that's why what the blueprint that we have is a blueprint. It's like a framework where we can adapt it. We can actually use it in different circumstances and different times and different places within Africa. But what we have provided for, according as my colleague has indicated, is a blueprint with actually 6 major courses that we think can form the entire restoration education. And within that, the way we have designed is really a flexible framework, which every university or every circumstances, they can actually be able to adapt it to fit their situation on the ground. We do realize that the education cannot, this cannot be across Africa, but each of these universities within Africa or any other institution within Africa, they can use the framework and be able to adapt to fit within the situation in which they are in. So there's that form of flexibility within the program itself. Similarly, if the interest is maybe within the university, you want to have part of the undergraduate program, that can also be done to adapt it to fit the undergraduate program. If it is for postgraduate program, it also be able to, to fit within that context. There are sometimes that maybe we really want to empower the practitioners, the people that are already on the ground, where they've already graduated from the university, but they want to acquire these new skills. the program can also be adapted to suit those audiences. Similarly, we may talk about we may talk about the decision makers. There are also elements that the program can be adapted to provide the relevant information that will be more appropriate for the policymakers. So we see that every component or every person within the workforce of restoration can get something from this particular restoration. So that is the element that we are talking about being innovative for us to be able to achieve our goals of the vision of this forum. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for that, Steve. But there was one more challenge that we are also striving to overcome, and that is the need or the challenge of building strong but also strategic partnerships. How are we going to overcome that?
Yes,
Marie-Louise, please, sorry. I'm looking to you.
Thank you, Tim, for that very good question. Yes, I fully agree with you that one really important part of doing this transformative learning is to build that strategic learning partnership. But I believe the way we have started with this blueprint by bringing on board, we have Kanzi here, we have all these partners we have brought on board to make sure that this program is more responsive, is also a good way forward. But it's also important at any point to make sure that we will be bringing on board the employees, not just like to be trained, but also as trainers, because at any point of time, they have something to share. And by bringing all these strategic partners, we are making sure that the product we are putting on the market is already bought. It already have a value for this market. So we think the fact that we are putting on board all stakeholders, and we are building this program from this stakeholders ownership is a good way forward to have that strategic partnership that can make landscape restoration a success.
Thanks, Marie-Louise, for bringing up the issue of employment. And we spoke a lot about workforce development and how do we go from knowledge in classrooms to developing the workforce. And there's also Franklin, who's mentioned that we need to develop a restoration education curriculum for children and youth. They are the most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change and least informed. And Candy here to my left works a lot with youth and grassroots organizations, especially with your organization and as a restoration steward. So yeah, how do we make this relevant to you? What's your take on that?
I think Franklin, we're speaking the same voice. I'm happy and I'm really privileged to work with children in my community and mentor them and work with them and mentor them to be stewards of our landscape. And it's beautiful with children. You can see behavioral change the more you interact with them. And also as a youth, I interact. It's amazing that gradually youth are interested now and joining in the movement of restoring and working towards climate action. However, for the longest time, anything to do with agriculture, being on the grassroots has been seen as a backward thing and a dirty job. Maybe they see we as youth, of course, are so energetic. We want to be in cities and develop technology, which is amazing. But at the same time, I've always had this thing in my heart, and that's why I actually went back to my community. And I'm like, of course, we go to the urban areas, we get all this knowledge, yet our communities are left in the same state. And it's my call to all youth and to rethink how maybe we see these things, because we are the change. We need to be the change we seek to see. And of course, it's amazing that we have lecturers here. And as Adejoke said, I know I've been in that process. Sometimes we find you lecturers to be a bit not people we want to interact with maybe sometimes. But I love the idea that we are improving on what is there. And I would, of course, I'm a champion of like now, of course, theory is very important, but of course, the practical bit is also very key. Because yes, you learn the environmental science, the community development, but you're stuck when you get out, when you graduate, you don't know where to start. But if we have this kind of know-how, you've been already exposed, this is how community outreaches are done. And I'm really grateful to the university I went to. Egerton was really keen on that. We had that exposure, and I think that's where my passion for communities bloomed. So I really love to see of course, we said that it's no longer business as usual. And these are things that now we need to improve on, which is amazing that we've already learned our lessons and there's room for improvement. And yeah, with kids, of course, we see kids are naive and people who cannot contribute to anything. But honestly, the 2 years I've worked with them, they have made me learn so many lessons, and it's high time. Next time, maybe in this panel, we should have a child. I think we'll have to learn from them. They are amazing human beings to work with, and soul feeling, they're so genuine, and I think it's high time everyone comes on board. It's amazing how now we see more women in these panels, and that's a plus. Now next, it's children I'm advocating for. Yeah. So thank you so much, and we are headed on the right direction. So
thanks a lot for that, Candy. So an inclusive restoration education program. There is a question in the chat, and I'm just going to say it, and then whoever wants to answer can, or else I will pick. But are there going to be benefits for farmers? So we've heard about children and youth and grassroots organizations, but what about the farmers who pursue restoration education, or how will it trickle down from formal education to the farmers?
Yeah, I can.
Yes,
I start.
Go for it, and feel free to compliment.
Yes. The people that we are training facilitators, either from the university, those that are already registered in the universities, or maybe those that are already practicing. For example, the frontline staff. These are the extension workers from the government, from the NGOs, or from projects that are directly working with the farmers. So through this particular program that we are talking about, what we are discussing now, it has got that element of providing the knowledge, capacities, and also the skills on facilitation, how they can actually engage the communities, develop local platforms where the communities can actually be able to utilize in order to improve the productivity of their landscapes. This is the key. By doing so, for sure, there will be financial benefits that the farmers will be able to get out of that, because there will be improvement in their restoration or in their landscapes, and be able to improve their productivity and also, earn more money out of that. So there's really is a full chain, which everybody will be able to benefit out of this. So I see that as an element that we need to always embrace. Let my colleagues want to add something?
Yes, maybe I can add that one important component of that of this program, of this blueprint, is this landscape restoration value chain that really brings the context of adding value to what is existing. So meaning that if you are involved, at what level you are involved, you could be improving, you will be improving somehow on what you are doing, therefore getting that benefit in terms of ecosystem services provided, but also in terms of the environment in which you are living.
Yeah, let me also add that we have to consider the economic benefits of this transformative restoration education, because we know that with this we need to provide incentives, and part of the incentive is to make sure that at whatever level that you're involved with the restoration, then there must be some benefits. In fact, part of what is in the curriculum is that when we're teaching our students, they must be able to have entrepreneurial skills that they will also use to make sure that there's some economic benefits that accrue to them. And of course, when we've trained the facilitators, this will go down to the farmers who are also on the ground, and there must be economic benefits for them to actually make this restoration efforts attractive sustainable. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot for that. And I mean, you might not know out there, but everyone in the back here was also involved in the workshops. And I'm curious, my dear friends, does anyone want to contribute to our discussion? Bessie? Yeah, please come forward. Or maybe ask a question, reflections, everything's welcome.
All right, thank you very much. And just a reflection.
Please, Bessie.
There's this is how the mindsets we have been here and we are changing. When we came in here, everybody had these loads of books in here and everybody was this way. So, but right now, what you're seeing is people, I would ask them to hold hands. That's where we are at right now, because that's the transformation that has happened. We were here and now we're living, holding hands to be transformative landscape restorers and professionals in the process. So it's working and we're on the right road. Thank you.
Indeed, we've had, as you now know, a lovely couple of days. After all the Zoom calls and exchange of Google documents, there is one more question that I think we can also go around the room. But I'll start off with Steve. Steve, so now when you go back home, right, because you're a professor at the university, senior lecturer at the University of Lilongwe. So what does this mean for the way restoration education is taught and trained? Because to a degree, you already do implement restoration content. So now after this workshop, after all the principles of transformative education, what does this mean in terms of how you teach and train?
Yes, I think there's a lot that can be done. We think, as we have indicated, it's just maybe few individuals from different universities. We think the starting point when we get back is to bring together a core team with the skills and tools of facilitation, which means that the first people that we want to focus on are my fellow lecturers, my fellow professors, so that they can embrace these transformative approaches to education. Many times it's really a lecturer and a student. That's the relationship that is there. But within what we have gone through here, now a lecturer or a teacher or educator has to be a facilitator. He has to also be able to be informed by the knowledge that the learner has. So these are the things that we think as a starting point, we need to form these core teams within our universities so that this will be the driving force for us to move to the next step where we are embracing the whole approach that we are trying to put in place. So I think that is the starting point that we really need to we'll be doing when we get back. The second aspect that also related to the same, as we mentioned earlier on, that there are already some low-hanging fruits in the systems that we have in our universities that we don't have to wait till maybe many more years to come or get a huge funding to get this done. We can still work within the resources that we have within our universities. The curriculums are there, the syllabuses are there. There are elements, some of the topics that we are part of it, they're already offered, but they're offered in a silo. That maybe somebody from extension is only looking at issues of extension. Somebody in engineering is only looking at the technical issues of engineering without looking at the integrated approaches that each one of it is able to hybridize each other. So those are some of the things that we think we can still already start putting into place some of these aspects. And still, again, apart from the university, we are also providing capacity to people that are already who are practicing on the ground, practitioners in the restoration of our landscapes. They also need this information now because these are the ones that have to play a role to ensure that our countries are able to achieve the restoration targets that we have set ourselves. So we think that that should also be a priority where we can actually adjust our program that we have developed and to tailor-made it to fit these practitioners so that even by next month, we can still start providing capacity to these people so that they acquire the skills and be able to accelerate restoration on the ground. So there's quite many opportunities that are there that we don't have to wait till. No, we can still do things as we move back into our respective universities. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for that, Steve.
In addition to what my colleague has said,
En plus de ce que vient de dire mon collègue,
what we're proposing in the curriculum is blended learning, such that even if a particular area of strength is not available in my university, it is possible to link up with another university, University of Lilongwe, whichever university, to be able to make sure that our learners get all this all-round knowledge that they need to be able to actually effect restoration education. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for Adejoke. And you touched upon the answer for this question that I have here from the chat. What has been put in place for collaboration between organizations involved in the restoration education program? And you touched upon that.
Yeah.
Blended learning journey. So that question is answered to an extent.
Partnership, all those things, because we know that you can't do it alone. University of Ibadan, Nigeria cannot do it alone. Malawi cannot do it alone. We all need to work together. This is a collaborative effort that requires everyone both within the continent of Africa and even outside Africa to come together to make sure that this is a success. And once we all have that will, we sure can do it.
Indeed. And some form of digital ecosystem.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Would you like, or have we answered that question, Mark?
Yeah, I say so.
Thank you so much, Marie-Louise. Okay, that's it for our panel discussion. I'd like to actually ask those at the back to stand up. Just to stand up, just because we've been here and not everybody has seen you. And then, thank all my new friends and my new colleagues from Adejoke, Marie-Louise, Steve, Eva, but also Tabitha, Richard, Anne, Bessie, and Mercy in the back. So thank you very much for this fantastic panel, but also for the 2 days. And now I'm honored to introduce Cora back to the floor to close and wrap up the session. Thank you.
What can we say? I think everything has been said. It's been fantastic. It's a wonderful initiative, and it's a really great program that is in the making. I think maybe just what I want to say, that I feel it's the right time. It's the right time. The world has finally woken up. The world has come to senses that we need to do something to restore our ecosystems. The funding is being mobilized, and they're really, thanks to the UNDecade, all eyes are on ecosystem and landscape restoration. That's great. Projects are being designed. Programs are being rolled out. It's the right time to start seeing restoration as a profession, as something that you can learn, something that you can graduate in, something that can get you a job, and some sector in which you can build your career. I really think that is a big step forward, thanks to all of us. These universities, they're ahead of the game. They're really making transformation as we speak. I therefore would like to say, stay tuned. You may even want to sign up for some of these great programs and courses and all that. Well, that's probably a bit too soon because it's still a work in progress. Nevertheless, you can browse through the Global Landscapes Forum. There you find the Landscape Academy, and I assume it's now appearing in your chat. And the Landscape Academy, you'll find all sorts of training courses, capacity building products, things that are designed by multiple partners, also by the Landscape Forum itself. I'm sure you will find what you need now, while waiting for much more to come. So, on behalf of Kenya, Rwanda, Ghana, and Malawi, Cameroon, Nigeria, and the Netherlands, I thank you very much, and I would recommend you to stay tuned. Goodbye.
Bye.